So I got a couple minutes here, just waiting to go into the doctor's office this morning and give some blood labs. As of right now, about every 6 months or so, my cancer doctor's checking some levels that he can get from blood work to try to see if there's any type of cancerous activity returning. There's a couple different kind of blood markers, they tell me, that when they're high, that's a good indicator that something's going on. So funny enough, when I had the tumor in me, those levels were like out the roof, which I thought is kind of interesting considering, this is not your typical cancer where you have to get radiation treatment and things like that. This wasn't the case. This was a benign tumor that had existed for probably forever and ever and ever. So I kind of wonder, like, could they have found it sooner had they done the right blood work? I don't know. It's a good question to ask, I guess. It's something that I definitely wouldn't want to have to watch my kids ever go through. So it would seem like if it's something that can be picked up in a blood lab, then, maybe it's something to do periodically throughout life. I mean, obviously, you never want to see your child go into surgery or something like that. But considering, like in my case, if I could have went in as a teenager or a child younger than that, or maybe even into my 20s, and had this taken care of through surgical options that were not nearly as invasive, like a VATS procedure where they just basically make an inch-long incision and they go in between your ribs. Theoretically, if it was small enough, they could have went in and done it that way and it would have been fine. Instead of having to do the whole open heart and that situation. So, of course, I think about, family and friends and, the kids, and would never want them to have to experience something like this. I guess part of what I'm saying is that, like, if my kids were going to go in for any type of normal blood work, then maybe pulling one extra vial of blood to look at some of these cancer markers, maybe that's not such a bad idea. I mean, it's the same stick in your arm. It only takes an extra 5 or 10 seconds, whether you have a family history or not, because I really don't have much cancer or anything like that in my family history. When doctors ask you the question, it's not really, I don't really have a family history of cancer. But after this situation, and it's something that I'm going to think about, because I just, whether they have a risk for it or not, I would much rather catch that early than later, because the difference between a VATS procedure and having this huge, massive open heart procedure, that's a whole world of difference. The recovery time is different. The healing process is different. The complications that you're going to have afterwards are different. The risk of the surgery itself is entirely different. So one thing I wanted to touch base on, because I thought about it just the other day, I think about it literally every time I ride by a hospital, especially the one that I was in. But anytime I ride past the hospital, when I was in the hospital, I had, especially the first time, I had a nice room with a nice big window. I could look outside, I could see the parking lot, I could see across the street. There was a McDonald's, there was a Dunkin' Donuts. It was really difficult for me to deal with at the time, but every time I would look out the window, it's like you would think that having a window is a good thing so that you can see out and actually look at something other than, say, a brick wall or not have a window at all. But at the same time, it was kind of like something that bothered me, because I look out there and everybody in the world is just going about their normal lives like nothing is happening. And to them, nothing is happening. I mean, they're going to work, they're doing their normal things, and here I am lying in the bed, practically fighting for my life, or at the very least, I'm alive, but I have all these chest tubes coming out of me and I can't really get up and go to the bathroom by myself. So it became like really, really frustrating to look out the window and wonder like what could be, I guess. And to see the whole world going on around you without you, and nobody even knows. I mean, obviously family and stuff like that, they know, but the population as a whole, they're not thinking about who's in the hospital. I can almost guarantee it. And they don't think about the seriousness of some of the situations that people are dealing with, which is fine. I mean, I don't expect them to, but it's really frustrating to see everybody just living their best life as you're lying there not living yours. It was difficult. The second go around that I was in the hospital, I did not have a window like that, but I still had that thought. And every time I go past the hospital now, I definitely get that feeling kind of rushing to my brain. It just comes. But it also makes me think about who's in there now and what are they dealing with. It's really a blessing to be out. I don't envy anybody in there at all. I really don't. It's hell. But I say that because it's a perspective that, unless you've been in that situation, you probably don't have that perspective. You probably don't recognize it, because how could you? So if you know somebody that's in a position like that, maybe they're in there for a couple days, maybe a couple weeks, a couple months, whatever the case may be, call them on the phone, text them, send them cards, go visit them. Visitation, I mean, there was a lot of times where I wasn't really coherent. I wasn't in really the shape to have visitors, but I still enjoyed it because it was like, okay, it's almost like recognition that, yeah, I'm still here and I still matter to somebody. The world in a whole does know that I'm here and what I'm going through. You don't feel alone. So, and that's saying a lot, because I mean, I had my wife beside me the whole time. Either her or my mom was there almost every single night that I was in hospital. But you still feel this isolation because you're not connected to the outside world. So it's just food for thought for anybody that knows somebody in that position. Give them a little attention. It will mean the absolute world to them, I promise you. I promise you. It's not just a person's physical well-being, it's their mental well-being. The physical battle can either be easier or it can be much more difficult based on where your mental's at. You got to try to keep thinking positively. If you're somebody that's, you know, spiritual, religious, connect with it, because that's going to be the one thing that's not going to leave you. Have family over whenever you can. Definitely take them food, because the food in the hospital is sometimes downright atrocious. It is not. Some of those meals are not even edible. I got a menu that I kept a copy of because they had basically the same foods on a rotation throughout the week. And there were certain days that I would know that I needed to call ahead of time and tell the kitchen, hey, I don't even want this. Some hospitals do have like an a la carte menu where you can substitute your meal for something else. Take advantage of that. Keep that in your back pocket, because if they offer a menu, you need to take a look at it, and you really need to look at the alternatives that you can get. It's well worth it. But with that note, it's time for me to get inside. So I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching as always. I'll see y'all next time.